Hello again, welcome back to On a Storyteller's Night. I am Nathan, joined as always by my co-host Josh.
Good evening.
So we'll start first of all with just a bit of a catch-up because we haven't really spoken much in the past week. So what have you been up to for the past week?
Well, last week I was working pretty much almost every day, and towards the weekend I did nothing besides watch WrestleMania.
I didn't watch. I've seen some of the highlights, but I didn't watch it live.
Wasn't the best first night, but the second night was really good. It was very enjoyable.
Yeah, I did see the results of what happened. And it's like, a lot of people were upset that The Rock didn't show up, even though he was part of the whole Cena turning heel. He didn't actually show up. Which
there's more to it than there's more to it than just that. He's been a active player for nearly 2 years now, and he only shows up when it suits him, not when it suits the storyline or the company.
Reminds me of somebody else.
I wonder who that could be. No. He's gone full time. Rock will never go full time again. Yeah.
No, Rock won't.
No, Rock will never go full time. But Paul, after his win in WrestleMania, that's him signaling that he's going full time, and he's going to try and go 2 years, doing as much as he can.
We'll see.
Either way.
So yeah. And as for me, work most of last week, doing helping the IT department do the Windows 11 upgrade and sorting out all the laptops and all the other stuff like that. And then I got a little UV pen, so I was writing like reference numbers on every single laptop, so we keep track of them because I keep putting stickers on them, but the stickers just peel off. So I've actually put UV pens on every single laptop, like the references and stuff. So that was fun. And then obviously that was only Monday to Thursday. So I've just been chilling the rest of the time doing videos and spending time with family. I had a nice Easter dinner yesterday with my parents. We had lamb and pork and 11 veg and white sauce and gravy. Yeah, we do like our food.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on 2 days on the bounce of roast dinners. One roast dinner at my girlfriend's and one roast dinner as soon as I get home.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm stuffed.
I love roast dinner, my favourite. And you can't beat just lamb gravy. So full of flavour. Love lamb. Well, actually, it's a good segue on to what we're going to talk about today. So I've got one question today. It's got infinite arguments. All right, this question has plagued mankind for centuries. Divided families, broken friendships. So today we're going to try and settle the debate. Is a hot dog a sandwich? So we'll try and break down definitions, food philosophy, cultural, and everything else, and maybe offend a few chefs along the way. So this is one of those ones that kind of, there's so many things. We're not just going to talk about that, but the other kind of definitions of food and what it is. So we'll start off. So the dictionary definition of a sandwich: 2 or more slices of bread or split roll having filling in between. Pretty simple, isn't it?
Yep.
What do you think? Is a hot dog a sandwich, or is it something else?
Hot dog is not a sandwich. People could say burger's a sandwich, but because it fits the description, in my eyes, it isn't. A burger, it has a bigger piece of meat in between the bun and the top bun and the bottom bun. That's the words. And the same for hot dog. You just slice a hot dog sausage in between a split open bun. But a sandwich is 2 separate pieces of bread with either ham or turkey or something that is simple, not like an entire patty of meat or an entire sausage of meat.
It has to be 2 separate pieces of bread.
2 separate pieces of bread. Yeah, that's what I see as a sandwich. 2 separate pieces of bread, not one.
What about a bread roll that you cut in half and have that? So that's not a sandwich, that's a roll, and you wouldn't call that a sandwich. So you just have like ham and cheese in a bread roll isn't a sandwich. I
would call, like, if it's a bread roll, I would call it something roll, like a cheese roll, because that's what it is. It says it's a bread roll, and you can cut that in half, put whatever you want. Cheese roll, ham roll, ticker roll or anything that you put in a side of a bread roll, that's what it is, something roll.
Then you look at like KFC and McDonald's and so on. If they don't call it a chicken burger, they call it a chicken sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
But that
it
would be a chicken roll.
Yeah, exactly.
What about Subway? Are those sandwiches? They call them sandwiches.
Yeah, but then again...
But it's a bread roll with larger meat and so on. Yeah,
but then again, on the menus, it doesn't really... Well, occasionally you'll get it, but some places don't say sandwich or burger or whatever. It's half a foot or a full foot.
Yeah.
You get either half or a full foot. They don't specify in most places what exactly it is. Yes, I understand in the bigger places, like, for example, Manchester. I went to a Subway in Manchester and it said breakfast foot long. I was like, okay. I go deeper into Manchester. They start saying sandwich. I was getting a bit confused when I saw that, but again, everyone's to their own. But for me, I'll always say whatever the packaging says is what it is. It isn't a burger, sandwich, butty. It's whatever it says. That's my opinion.
Then look at, once again, McDonald's breakfast sandwiches. Muffins and so on is not a bread roll. It's not slices of bread. It's a muffin, English muffin sliced in half, or in America they'll have like biscuits as well. But that's a breakfast sandwich.
Yeah.
Is how they do define them. But then that goes against what you would class as a sandwich. Would a toasted sandwich count as a sandwich because it's toasted? Is it a different type? Or is that still a sandwich, like, cheese toasty or something? Is that then defined as a sandwich because it's two separate slices of bread?
At that point, it becomes... See, like a toasty, that just becomes a toasty.
Toasty. But toasty is just a toasted sandwich.
The closest it gets is a piece of toast. It isn't a sandwich. I would never include sandwich or a butty or anything along those lines if the bread or bun is being grilled or toasted. It's not a... It's a toasty. That's what I think. It's but
that
toasty.
Is short toasted sandwich, though. That is the whole term.
But again, that's what it's called. I would never... It would either be two slices of toast with cheese in the middle or a toasty. It would never be a toasted sandwich in my eyes. I don't see the point in calling it that.
So a panini also isn't a sandwich then?
No, it's called a panini.
Because it has a separate thing. Okay.
It's got its own name for a reason, to get away from that stereotype. And panini, burger, a sausage roll, or...
Well, a sausage roll is slightly different because that's using pastry rather than...
Oh, you'll be surprised.
Because if you say sausage roll, I instantly think like Greg's sausage roll pastry.
Yeah.
But from your definition, a sausage roll is a roll with sausages in, rather than...
That's American terminology, because when they hear sausage roll, like, what's a sausage roll? Is that like a hot dog or a sausage put in a roll? No, it's pastry. That's what us Brits and the UK know what sausage rolls are.
But from what you said, if you've got a bread roll with sausages in, it would be a sausage roll.
Mm-hmm.
Which is then confusing with a sausage roll. Just two terms then for one term for two different things. That's where the confusion gets in.
This is why most people get
sausage butty or something else in this country, I guess, or bap is the other one, isn't it? They always can. So a wrap also isn't a sandwich.
No. How can a wrap be a sandwich?
But you look at a lot of things and they will class it as a sandwich on menus and so on.
Well, I highly disagree, because a wrap is a tortilla wrap. You wrap it up. You don't have two separate wraps and then just place both circular wraps on top of each other. That just doesn't work.
A quesadilla, you do?
Yeah, a quesadilla. Again, it's got its own separate name. In my eyes, it has nothing to do with sandwiches or butties. It's got its own name for a reason.
But from a point of view of, like, restaurant menus, they often put things together into like similar areas to make it easier to find things you'll eat with your hands, the quicker, lighter lunches. So they tend to have sandwiches as a lot of that sort of thing. So wraps, bread rolls with filling,
See,
sandwiches.
I've never encountered that. Every time I see like sandwiches, it's been ham and cheese sandwich, pickled onion sandwich, jam and peanut butter and jam, and then you have wraps on the menu. Everywhere I go, I see it all broken down into more areas instead of here's sandwiches. You've got wraps, burgers, and a lot underneath it. No, I haven't seen that, and that's not what. Again, that's not that. That's what I believe, and I know this is the whole debate thing because I'm one side of the debate. I couldn't care less, but if it's got a name, that's what it's called. It isn't a sandwich if it's a quesadilla. Yeah. It isn't a butty if it's a burger.
It's more from the point of view of kind of classifying things into wider areas. So I know things are classified as a kind of higher level and then sort of lower levels between that, branching off into the different varieties, I think is a big thing. You know, you look at the animal kingdom, you know, mammals is the overarching, like all of these creatures. Then you get great apes and cats and everything else underneath that. So it's kind of a way to categorize food that you eat in a similar way that's made in a similar fashion.
Yeah.
So although you say like a hot dog isn't a sandwich, it's still bread or a bread roll with something in the middle. So it sits more along those lines. But then you also get an open sandwich, which is called a sandwich. And that's just a piece of bread with something on top of it. But it's still classed as a sandwich, even though it's open, which I've always found a bit of an odd one. But what else would you call it? That's the hard one. What would you call an open sandwich if you don't call it an open sandwich?
I don't know. I picture it, but that's a hard answer to give that image.
Yeah, exactly, because I don't know how else you would categorize it. And I think that's where the trouble is categorizing things is, you know, you have to kind of, like I was saying before, with sausage roll and a roll with sausages in. If you say it the wrong way, people will get confused. Like, oh, do you want a sausage roll? And you give them a roll that has sausages in, they could be disappointed because they're expecting like a Greg sausage roll.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that's kind of a bit weird. But then the trouble is, if you try to over classify things, so I know it's sort of like more overarching and sort of a higher level. So if your sandwiches is anything that's made in that way, then you could have many things that has some kind of bread or, you know, starchy substance on the outside with a filling on the inside. It then opens up to a lot like a taco. Would also be the same sort of thing, because that's got filling inside it and some kind of, you know, doughy mass around it. So it's kind of odd, because I know in New York, I think in 2015, they ruled that a burrito is not a sandwich.
Yeah, burrito isn't a sandwich. It's not a sandwich.
Entity which has its name. But the reason why they do it a lot of time in legal circles is to categorize it for different taxes and things like that. And there's been a lot of talk about that, especially in America more than this country, because of the way they charge tax. Like they did things like Greg, if you have something hot, you end up paying tax on it. If you don't have it heated up, you don't pay tax on it, and that sort of thing. So there's even more of that kind of thing goes on in America, which is why they try and classify things in different ways. But then you look at the ridiculous things like in America, what they do with bread. They look at Subway, there's so much sugar in the bread, it could probably classify more of cake than it would bread.
But then again, the texture of the bread is still bread. It is nowhere near the cake texture.
No, but that's once again, do you categorize it because of how it's made?
It's bread. No, it's not about how it's made. It's about how it's constructed. Like the tortilla, like example that I said, that's being constructive. That's constructing what you want to make. If you want to make a sandwich, people's first instincts or first image in their head will be a piece of bread, butter, lettuce, ham, cheese, and then the same on the other slice. And then you collect it together. That's a sandwich. A burger, again, you're making with the bigger meat patty. it's all about being constructive in your head and not falling under stereotypes. But then again, people like what they like.
It's one of those things that if you look at, because they've always trying to reclassify things. I said a lot of it is to do with taxes and legality,
and
all that sort of nonsense, which in America, as we know, is absolutely worse. You can kind of take it to an extreme. So you look at things like pizza. In some ways, you could say it's an open sandwich, bread at the bottom with toppings on it.
Absolutely not.
And is it a toasted open sandwich?
Absolutely not.
No. But it follows a lot of the same rules.
Chickens are crawling right now.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying it follows the same rules as something being an open sandwich. Yeah? Or like cheese on toast.
Okay.
It's the same thing, but slightly different. Or look at a calzone, which is like a pizza folded in half, basically, and sealed.
Yeah.
But then that's kind of like a pasty. In shape.
And
everything.
Here we go. They've got their own names for a reason.
Yeah.
And like, if someone generally thought that pizza is a sandwich, it's just you got the bread and then the toppings. If they said that or asked, is a pizza a sandwich, to the country of origin that dish comes from,
rather than a sandwich, because it doesn't qualify as a sandwich.
If it's an open sandwich, if say an American goes to an Italian and say what's an open sandwich, and Italian wouldn't know. But then the American shows a photo of a pizza. The Italians will go absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, but then they also would about all the things we do to pizza anyway. Pineapple on pizza, for instance, one of our favourite.
That's just correct in every other way.
But it's not to Italians, though, is it? The inventors of it would just hate that idea that you shouldn't put things like that. And you look at some countries, they put like banana on pizza or strawberry on pizza, which I think is really weird. But there's lots of different things culturally as well that they kind of do. So it's one of the things. Imagine if there was, some alien landed on the planet and he tried to explain to them what a sandwich is, and then they see something like a hot dog or a taco, and it's like, but isn't that? It's like, no, because of this reason. You know what I mean? This is where it blurs lines. If you had to explain it to somebody that doesn't speak the language, and you try and show them for the first time what these different things are, it then becomes very complicated.
Yeah.
This is a sandwich, but because we're doing it slightly different, and because the bread is a slightly different shape, it's got a different name. And because we put this in it, it's also got a different name. A burger, according to some, is a sandwich, and breakfast sandwiches are sandwiches, but they're also not in other ways because it uses a bread roll or something that's split into instead, so it's not a sandwich. But you can take that to kind of the extreme for anything.
I think it should just be plain and simple. If it has its name, it has its name. If it doesn't, don't make it awkward by calling it a closed, open, or normal sandwich. Burger's got its own name, pizza's got its own name, tortilla, wraps,
but what do you call the breakfast sandwich then from like McDonald's, where you've got the English muffin,
the breakfast sandwich. Breakfast sandwich. What I imagine what a breakfast sandwich is again one piece of flatbread and another piece of flatbread. I don't care if it's brown, seeded, or white or whatever. It's just one slice of bread with the other slice of bread, and then you put the traditional breakfast items in, such as beans, bacon, sausage, and anything on the normal traditional British plate. It's just what side are you on? It's all about what side I know and like. But what about you?
I'm doing the devil's advocate and bringing in the different reasons why it could be. Because I don't care. Food is food. I don't really care what food is called because
I'm agreeing that food is food.
Which is what. But it was more kind of to get the arguments going because I've had a look at it and kind of swirled around with this a little bit to kind of get the arguments either side and then seeing what you think of those arguments. If you mean, so we can kind of discuss it back and forth and like go, oh yeah, but what about this? And then you kind of, that's like, a lot of the time in the UK, it's like a butty is a a sandwich, but we don't really use that in Wales quite so often. So there's, weird things like that. But if you look at, like I was saying, the classification is, if you go from the point of view, as I was saying, like an alien or, for instance, somebody you're trying to explain food to, and they say, oh, what's that? And there's different ones. I said the breakfast sandwich is a weird one because there isn't another name for, like, the breakfast sandwich isn't like McDonald's.
Yeah, okay.
They are called breakfast sandwiches.
Yeah.
Even though they don't fall under the definition of a sandwich. But they don't really have another definition as such, do they?
No.
Apart from a muck whatever. But then if you have one that isn't for McDonald's, but it's the same thing, you wouldn't use the McDonald's name for it.
No. Like, I can see
like an
that.
egg McMuffin or something. The egg McMuffin. You call an egg muffin, but then that also has different connotations in different places. If you said, sausage and egg muffin, because there's different types of muffins as well. Some of them are bread, some are cake. It's like, or is it inside? That's where it kind of blurs the lines then when you're trying to describe something by mentioning the ingredients rather than what the basic format of it is, for want of a better word. You see what I mean? So it's like saying it's a breakfast sandwich is easier than saying it's a bacon, egg and cheese muffin. Because it's shorter and to the point, and you still know it's still a sandwich. Well, it's some kind of bread and it's got the ingredients in the middle. So it makes sense what it is. When you say it the other way, it becomes long-winded, so people won't tend to do that. So I think that's where a lot of it comes from. And it's like, well, anything like that is a sandwich then. If you're calling things like that a sandwich to make life easier and make it more sort of common sense of what it is you're describing to somebody, that's when you'll get like people then breaking down the definition, like, well, if that's a sandwich, this is a sandwich because it's the same sort of thing. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where it kind of goes like that. We can, of course, take it to the ultimate, like, ridiculousness of it if we're looking at kind of definitions of food.
Then,
so what would you call something, right? What would you call something that has a liquid base and had solid components in it?
A liquid base and solid
with
in the
solid
middle.
Pieces in it. What would you call that as a food? What's the first thing that springs to your mind?
I think I'm having a brain fart at the moment. I'm trying to figure out what has liquid.
What would you have in a bowl, eat with a spoon that is mainly liquid and has bits of something in it?
Not a fucking soup.
Soup? But what if I'm talking about cereal? That's liquid with bits in it.
Yeah, right. The difference here, and this is a good example that I always shoot people down with when this question does pop up. In a soup, there would usually be meat and veg that is already
not
cooked.
meat. You can't state meat because there's a lot of soup that isn't meat. Tomato soup, vegetable soup.
Just hold on a moment. There's different meats, different veg, and different things that have already been cooked. Unlike a cereal, you're getting something that is dry and savoury, and you're making it wet because of the milk you're adding to it. It's not already cooked. So everything that is crunched up ready is a cereal. Everything that's cooked up in a tin, ready to be made for a soup, to preheat for a soup, is called a soup. And I will die on this hill.
But cereal is cooked. You're adding milk to it.
You're not wrong. But it's more baked, if anything, because it's all savoury.
Yeah, but you can bake ingredients for soup. Like if you're doing a vegetable soup, you can roast the vegetables, bake them, and then you make the soup using a liquid. So that's the same process, essentially, as a soup.
Yeah.
So soup and cereal is the same.
Still,
really?
I know where my mind lies when it comes to soup and cereal.
But I'm glad you didn't say, like, cereal's cold and soup is hot, because you get instances of both, where a soup can be cold, gazpacho soup, obviously, things like that. Cold pea soup.
You
can also get warm cereal.
Yeah, warm cereal, Weetabix or ready bread. Porridge, yeah. You can have...
Porridge you have to cook.
Yeah, you have to.
So that's also a cereal. It's not a soup. You have to cook that. But that's more like a soup from definition.
But when you hear cereal, it's got more of a are all the vitamins and all of the routine stuff inside, and whilst soup and hot meals are traditionally all of the filling stuff, all the things that are meant to keep you warm and feel energized. Soup just gets you ready for the day. It's getting your carbs up, it's getting your iron and stuff like that going.
So from that, does a food definition depend on the intent of the food? Like when
yes,
you have it,
I would say yes to that. Definitely. Yeah. I would class cereal as just cereal, no matter what time of day it is, because it's like, I just want something to quickly.
Cereal's always nice.
Yeah, I just want something to give me a less of an empty stomach, and you'll spend
a little bit of a sugar hit, a little bit of a crunch, some milk, and it just kind of picks you up a little bit. But imagine like ordering it in a restaurant and going, "I'll have a milk soup with cornflake croutons, please." You know,
the deafening stares. Like, what did you just ask?
Kind of, but you figure it's like, kind of, it's kind of the same thing. But it's like, here's another really odd one, right? So, is a Pop-Tart like a ravioli?
God. No.
So it's filling encrusted in a dough pocket, and it's sealed around the edges. You can bake it or toast it. So
what on earth am I hearing? I would never consider a Pop-Tart as a ravioli. Ravioli's pasta. Pop-Tart.
It's still dough.
Isn't. Yeah,
it's still
but
dough.
Pasta is its own thing. Again, pasta, you've got ravioli, carbonara, you've got shells, you've got thousands of different pasta.
I know, but it's the definition of how it's made. But you could also say like a slice or something you get from like Greg's that's pastry with a filling. Well, that's still pastry with a filling, the same as a Pop-Tart. So as a Pop-Tart, I suppose it's just a pastry, a sweet pastry. But you just call it a Pop-Tart because it's a bit kind of cheap and nasty, isn't it? You wouldn't call it like a pastry, like, a nice pastry you get from somewhere. Because it's not quite the same thing. But if you looked at the base of what it's actually, the components of it, then it would be kind of the same. Was it, just like a sweet calzone? Same sort of thing, dough around it with a filling in the middle.
I can't believe this.
This is like the logic. So if you break things down into this is how it's made, this is where you can get like really ridiculous things. So you think of something that has multiple layers stacked with filling in between. Think of something that would be that. So multiple layers of the same thing with filling in between it. What's the first thing that would come to mind? And sometimes topped with like a sauce or something. What?
A donut.
Multiple layers in a donut.
Oh, multiple cake. You could class it a cake as that.
Or lasagna. So is lasagna just a savoury cake? Because it's just.
Oh no! We're going down the rabbit hole now.
This is the whole point of this. It's just it's the whole thing with language, isn't it? Is that if you describe something, but if you describe something by how it's made rather than, and the components, you can confuse that. It's like the thing you always see on the internet. I'll have a slice of that Goff lasagna, please. Like that's a chocolate cake. The Goff lasagna.
I've heard that before. Like, can I have the Goff lasagna? Like,
yeah,
that's a cake, mate.
Yeah, exactly. It's a chocolate cake. What are you on about? But that's what I kind of like about this is how you describe something. So this is the silly one that always annoys me. Boneless wings. Boneless wings. They're just chicken nuggets.
Yep.
In a different shape. Why are they calling them boneless wings? They're chicken nuggets. Like, they're made the same way as chicken nuggets, but they call them boneless wings. Like, why? Like, what is that about?
But that is because people who make stuff up like that are called special people.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's that. This is the thing. Like we go back to the sandwich. One I forgot. Ice cream sandwich. That's a sandwich. Just happens to have ice cream and other layers, but it's still called a sandwich.
See, now that I would call marketing. that's just a marketing. I would still just call that ice cream with a
with wafers either side.
With wafer, that's ice cream with wafers.
Or cookie or something, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That's a marketing.
An ice cream sandwich, isn't it? Right, so here's a different one then for you. All right, another one you could possibly classify: nachos, a salad.
No,
but it has the components of a salad.
Yeah, but it's worse for you than a salad. Tenfold.
Oh, that depends on the salad. Salads aren't always healthy. Let's get that right out there. Salads are not always healthy. Some of the sauces you can have with salads, and then the cheese and everything else, do not make them healthy. And let's be honest, you can have pulled pork on them now and barbecue sauce. Salads are not necessarily healthy. Just because they've got green in them doesn't make them healthy. Which is one of those things like, oh yeah, not quite. But once again, if you had the same sort of, if you don't go for the basic definition of something, you can come up with really ridiculous things like that, can't you? That's what I'm kind of getting at with all of this. Is it all depends how you kind of look at it. So it's like, tax laws and so on. They classify pizza as prepared food rather than baked goods, but it is baked. But it's a prepared food for tax purposes, like I was saying before, like Greg's. If you have the sausage rolls warm, you then have to pay tax on them. If they're not, you don't, which is kind of, a bit silly. There's the other thing with going back to pizza is like Chicago and so on, they'll have a pizza pie because it's a deep dish done kind of backwards. Have you ever seen like the deep dish, like proper Chicago pizza? It's not the Chicago ones we get you. But you look at those and the sauce is like top and the cheese is in the bottom. And like it's almost backwards. So is that more of a pie than a pizza? Because it has the more kind of filling rather than topping, doesn't it? And they do call them like pizza pie is kind of a very American term for pizza, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right there. But when people say pizza pie, it breaks up the ears. Like, I've never heard of that before. That is part of a marketing scheme. That's getting something new out there, even though that a pizza pie isn't new at all.
No, it's the trouble is you get different areas like different talking. Like you get it in the UK, it could be a butty, it can be a bap. There's so many different things. But when you get like a TV show that then is based in that area and everybody watches that, everyone then picks up that terminology. So pizza pie comes from like specific areas, but then because that area is featured heavily in a TV show or movie, it becomes kind of commonplace. And that's what you find with a lot of this kind of thing, that it then becomes common, which it always annoys me. Things become sort of common language and it shouldn't be. And it's just because it's on TV and then everyone does it and it winds me up when they just abuse language like that. But you could look at any of this and if somebody on a TV show, say it was something as big as like the next Breaking Bad or something, and they start calling hot dog sandwiches, you can guarantee that within like a year or two, everyone's calling it sandwich. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
That's one of the troubles with sort of, especially social media and pop culture, is that definitions and words will change their meaning depending how they're used and how many people are exposed to it. Look at all the Americanisms we now have in the UK that we didn't have before. It won't be quite as sort of visible for you, being different generation to me. But for me, the amount of Americanisms I see, and it just winds me up. It's like, that's not the British word. You're using the American word. And it's getting more and more and more of that.
I am just as annoyed because there was about a 10-minute drive away from me. There is a shopping mall, but there used to be a KFC there. It's been replaced by Popeyes.
Oh yeah, we've had a few.
I can't complain. I'm happy that I'm seeing a lot more American fast food in the United Kingdom. But when I heard, this is why I'm bringing this up. My mate said, "Oh, let's go to KFC Imperial." There isn't one anymore. It's Popeyes. Yeah. No, it's what American call KFC.
No, it's not. It's a different.
No, that's American chain. That's their own thing.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing.
is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, McDonald's, Burger King. See, this is where fast food situations come in again. Because why would I call a fish sandwich a filet of fish? I understand it, but to me that just makes no sense. And when the American chains start taking over, such as Popeyes, they use, because they're American, they use all the American slang and American terms.
It's all chicken sandwiches again, as we were saying before. They're chicken sandwiches, bread rolls with chicken and cheese and other things in sandwiches, but they also do the sandwiches that have biscuits, which more like a scone, but slightly different to a scone, but similar kind of concept. They have those, and they'll call those sandwiches. But from what we were saying earlier, a sandwich has to be 2 slices of bread. Well, that's the other thing with Americans. They don't put butter on the bread.
No, it's ludicrous.
Which is like, what? How can you not put butter? You have to put, if you've got a slice of bread, butter goes on it. Before anything else, no matter what you're putting on it, butter. Apart from Nutella. I wouldn't necessarily put butter with Nutella.
No, Nutella is its own butter. But yeah, I was about to say peanut butter isn't butter.
No,
it's peanut
butter with peanut butter.
Oh. Yeah.
I like scones. Oh, I love scones. Especially my mum's scones. She makes brilliant. I like, afternoon tea and all that sort of thing. Scones, strawberry jam and clotted cream and butter. Oh, God, so good. So good. But it's like the way that people do that as well. They'll put butter on and then the clotted cream and then the jam is the right way. People try and put jam first and then clotted cream on top. It's like, how do you do that? It's like the jam is...
Yeah, no.
It's too liquidy. It goes on top. It doesn't go on the bottom. That winds up well. But people will do that, in different areas. They'll think that's the right way to do it. Or they'll do one on each side and put it together. No, you want to eat the half like an open sandwich. You don't want to sandwich it together again. When you don't put like cream on one side, jam on the other, and put it together again. That's no good.
Absolutely
it's just really tall. Yeah. But then along these lines, if you do have a burger out somewhere, do you use a knife and fork or do you use your hands?
I use my hands when I eat a burger, unless it's the remainder on my plate. If whatever's left on my plate, I will grab a knife and fork.
Depends on the size of it, though. If it has a couple of burger patties and everything else, and it's physically too big, will you split it in half and eat each half, or would you cut it with a knife and fork that way?
Oh, I would do what professional cooks do. I would get a nice fillet knife, make sure it cuts as softly as possible so nothing falls out, and eat one half. That's still a burger because you're not cutting a burger into a sandwich.
I mean, if it's too tall, like if you've got one that's got a couple of burger patties.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I would still cut it because
you cut it, but it's still. I suppose you can get away with it that way. Pizza, would you eat it with a knife and fork?
I do. It's tradition. It's a traditional way.
All the time.
Yeah, it's traditional way. I would actually very rarely eat with my hands on pizza.
Unless you're out and about and not sat at a table. If you're walking around or something else, then I would. But otherwise, I always. It depends. If I'm in a hotel room or somewhere, pizza, you're not going to have a knife and fork because you're going to be in the hotel room. So that sort of in tent or whatever else. Then it's just eat it as it is. But generally, I'd have at home always knife and fork. If I'm out of pizza, knife and fork every time. I'm in a restaurant, always knife and fork for my pizza.
Yeah, likewise. I wouldn't encourage people to be like, "Ooh, eat with a knife and fork," because that's the way I was brought up.
Exactly, it's a very kind of British touchy.
Yeah.
You look at Americans, and they'll use a knife and fork always wrong, and cut up their food, and then just use the fork in the right hand and just eat like that after they've cut everything up. It's like, I'm cutting up as I go and mix and have everything together and have like different mouthfuls with different combinations of the stuff on my plate. That's what makes it fun. I'm not going to cut it all up and like go cold and then eat it with. Nah, cut it as you go. That's how to do it. But once again, Americans haven't grown up with that kind of, sitting on a table or knife and fork. There's a lot more TV dinners, I guess. They don't do the same thing with a knife and fork. It's weird. It's weird to see because because the way we do a knife and fork is totally different. It's really weird to see people do it in a different way, I guess, when we're so used to doing it that way.
Then again, I I'm not saying you do at all. Well, don't even. But I have the utmost respect for different countries and ethnicities and religions, because the way they eat, the way they take care of their diets, it's all accustomed to their country.
Oh yeah,
Like,
well
Americans are screwed.
Well, Americans don't have the same. Generally speaking, America as a whole doesn't have that kind of culture. They're just taking from everyone around them and kind of trying to go their own way. It's theirs. Whereas look at Mexican food and everything. It's like I'm a big lover of chopsticks. I have Chinese food all the time and Japanese sushi and I love using chopsticks. I've always used chopsticks. If I go to Chinese restaurant, I will always have chopsticks. I will never have chips with a Chinese because I don't understand that. I don't know why people would have chips with a Chinese because it's Chinese. It's weird. But I will always use a knife and fork. If I'm at a restaurant, I'll always ask for chopsticks rather than knife and fork whenever I can. And often I take them with me, to be honest. So I'm a nerd, and I've always got I've got a few sets of travel chopsticks and that sort of thing, so I can take them with me if I think I'm going to have them. Because I'm just like that. I just enjoy it more in the way it should be. Like if I'm having Indian, I like having a patty and bread and stuff like that and eating it like that, because I very much enjoy kind of eating the way it was meant, I guess. It's the way to kind of say it. That's what I like about travel and having food in different places, is trying the different ways that people have food, the way they prepare food, the way they eat food. And I quite enjoy that. Although at home, I'll generally use a knife and fork, so like Chinese and that. But anything else, I will, because that's how we're kind of brought up. But I quite enjoy trying the different ways that people do things. You get some cultures where they just have a stick and they kind of poke things with a stick and eat it that way. There's lots of different ways, and different ways people use it. In the UK, any meal pretty much you could have bread and butter with and make a sandwich while you eat it. That is the most British thing in the world. Got fish and chips and mushy peas. Yes, have a slice of bread and stick everything in it. Doesn't matter what it is. You could have have a slice of pizza and some chips or something. You still make a sandwich out of it. Let's face it. Who hasn't? Put chips in the bread and butter and some of the pizza and just eat that. It's lovely. But no other kind of cultures really do that bread and butter. With different bread, like I said, chapatis and naan bread and things like that, different cultures do. But I think we're the only ones that really kind of rely on the bread and butter a lot. It is very, very British, isn't it? Butter.
Oh yeah, it really is. Like, there's nothing nastier but more relaxing than being on a promenade next to the sea and you just see a chippy. And you're just like, go for the cheapest.
Yeah.
Fish and chips with a piece of buttered bread. It's perfect.
It's brilliant. It's so good.
It's a very British, but it works because it's British. And what most people don't understand is when we have ethnics or tourists try fish and chips with salt and vinegar, the buttered bread, they underestimate it. They're like, oh, really? It's so bland. They eat it and they're hooked. Yeah. I know a lot of Americans over here in the United Kingdom that love fish chips and buttered bread because they just wouldn't expect it.
Because they don't have it in America. You look at what they think like fish and chips is a totally different thing. It's
for us, they eat fish and crisps. That's what they see.
Yeah, you say chips is a completely different thing. But it's like one of the things that it's a really weird thing that we have in common with Canada, and that's chips, cheese, and gravy.
Yeah.
Most places wouldn't think that, but it's a big thing in Canada. It's called poutine, but instead of having grated cheese, they have cheese curds. And cheese curds are brilliant because they're kind of squeaky and just sort of moreish, and that's what you have with the gravy and the chips, and that's what you have. But here, you go on a night out, you're either having a kebab or you're having cheesy chips. Sometimes gravy on it as well, depending how kind of extravagant you're feeling. But it's always like cheesy chips everyone always has on that. Cheesy chips or a kebab. Yeah, every night out, it's always one of those. And you'll see people lining up these big queues at the chippy just to get their cheesy chips while they walk to the bus or the taxi, whatever. Again, it's like, so I like big, proper chip shop chips. I used to like them all when they double, don't they? Soggy, boring compared to be nice to have a little bit of, crispy on the outside and really fluffy. But Americans, they just tend to have the French fries, bigger steak cut chips, chippy chips. French
Yeah,
fries.
but the thing is, with steak fries, they're so niche and boring. I don't like French fries as much. If I like go to McDonald's or Burger King or KFC and I get French fries, that's perfect because it's just
Which
a
do
single
you
helping.
prefer? Because the three of them do French fries in completely different ways.
I'm telling you now, I don't care how beloved these French fries are from McDonald's, they're the worst out of the three I mentioned.
The thing is, they're
don't
not
like
even real, are they?
No.
Because they're made of basically mashed potato and beef flavoring, and they're made into the shape of French fries and fried. That's
I
what they are.
generally
They're
think
mashed potato. Whereas you look at the KFC ones,
yeah,
it's skin on.
skin on.
It's potato, real potato.
Same with Burger King. It's you can feel as you bite into it like this is an actual chip. French fries from a fry, but French fries from McDonald's, you can clearly tell it's fake because they don't.
Yeah.
I've been there. We've both worked there. They're not. Yeah. It's not right. There's something
they
off
crisp
about
up
them.
Too much on the outside, and the inside becomes too airy. There's not enough on the inside because it's mash. It kind of, there's always holes in it. You know what I mean? Whereas normal chips, it's kind of, you bite into it and it's potato all the way. A McDonald's one, they kind of cave in on themselves, don't they? So there's too much air in the middle of it.
Yeah, it just gives out.
The cross section, and you look at the outside of it, and it's all kind of caves into the center, doesn't it? From the corners. Whereas you look at a normal like chip, and it doesn't do that because it's solid, and that's a big difference. But McDonald's chips, French fries, are probably the most popular in America. I'm just thinking, what does that say, eh? What does that say? And that's the most popular one. Weird. Don't get it. They're okay, but to be honest, I don't often have McDonald's unless I got something different that I want to try. And if I do have McDonald's, I tend to have a double quarter pounder, or maybe two of them, and then something else. But I never have chips. Do not have French fries at all because I don't want them. If I want chips, I'll have chips. I go to the chippy, but I do not have French fries from McDonald's unless it's some kind of ridiculous meal deal and it's like really good value, and then I'll just have them. You know, what the hell? But generally speaking, I'll just order a burger. Well, 2 burgers because I'm a pig. So 1 burger's never enough. So I always have to have a couple of them. But yeah. Which do you think's better though, out of like Burger King, McDonald's? Which do you prefer out of the two?
Out of those two?
Yeah, if you had to have a choice and it was just those two.
I'm gonna say I know a lot of people could disagree with me, but I tend to enjoy Burger King a lot more, but I see myself going to Mackie D's a lot more than I do Burger King.
Yeah. Some of that might be priced for me.
Yeah, it is priced, but if I had to choose, Burger King, 110%.
Burger King, one main reason, well, a couple of reasons. The burgers are better quality than McDonald's. Having both worked at McDonald's, we know how crap they are. The fact you have like proper slices of tomato and that sort of thing in McDonald's, that anymore. And they have mayonnaise in them.
Oh, yeah.
That's the biggest difference for me is the mayonnaise. You can order McDonald's burgers with mayonnaise, but it's just not the same. You know, you get a Whopper and it's got mayonnaise in it already. Yeah, you have to order cheese separate, which I'd never. It should always come with cheese. It's a burger. It's supposed to have cheese, but they just taste so much better. It's that mayonnaise and ketchup together. Saucy sauce, best. Heinz actually make it now, a bottle of saucy sauce, which is a mixture of tomato ketchup and mayonnaise in one. Nice. That stuff. I just love that mixture. When I was a kid, there was a place called Hyper Value, the shop. They had these tubes. It was kind of like a toothpaste tube, like, a metal tube, just like toothpaste. And it had in it, they did 2 of them. They did one that was mayonnaise and ketchup and another one that was ketchup and mustard. And it would come out stripy. Yeah. You know, like toothpaste that comes out with stripes. Yes. Imagine that, but the stripes are like mayonnaise and ketchup or ketchup and mustard. And that's how it would come out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
The kind of stripy. Oh my God, those were so good.
I do vaguely remember them.
Yeah. You can still get them on like Amazon, but they're quite expensive. But it's so good. I used to love that. But it's like, I've tried the QP mayonnaise, the Japanese mayonnaise. Don't know if you tried that. It's really expensive and it's filled with MSG, which is fine. A lot of people panic about MSG, but MSG is in so many different, and especially like Asian cooking is used a lot. And this mayonnaise is unbelievable. QP mayonnaise is absolutely, it is the best mayonnaise. But it's like £6 a bottle. I just can't justify it. They're not very big bottles. That stuff. Oh my. I absolutely love that stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever tried though that Japanese one. I don't think I ever have, and I don't think I probably will. Because going to Japan isn't on my list at all.
Oh, you're kidding? That's number one on my list. Japan. Oh, I'd love to go to Japan. Love all things Japanese. I love the language. I love the music. I love the movies. I love the food, drinks, everything. Japan's just about Japan. I always have done. Many years ago, I was going to go to Japan as part of a university course when I went to the short before I moved to America. But never mind. Yeah, because I was going to do a course. It was called Manufacturing Systems with Japanese Business. That's what I was going to study in university. And I would have spent 6 months in Japan looking part of the course, which would have been like amazing. But it wasn't meant to be in the end. That's what it is. I'll find another way.
At least it was an opportunity. I could say.
Well,
it was an opportunity.
The opportunity to move to America instead. So
Yeah, you took that one. I would have.
I took that opportunity, and then a couple of years later, I did that and went to Canada as well for a couple of years. Got to do it. As I always say, regret the things you have done and haven't. Never want to regret thinking, what if I'd done that? Same with food. I'll always try something. If I don't like it, I don't have to have it again. If I like it, hey, I've learned something new and I can have it again. But it's always annoys me when people don't try food just because I don't think I like it. Well, try a little bit. If you don't like it, don't have it again. You never know what you'll. That's the thing.
Yeah, precisely. I agree there. A lot of people don't try things and it really annoys me. Just give it a go. Who knows if you like it? Who knows if you don't?
Yeah.
Have a
If
go.
you don't, at least you know. But then if you suddenly like it, you're like, oh, I've been missing out on this. Imagine if you're 90 and you try something like, this is the best food I've had in my life. And you've missed out the life on something that could have been your favourite. That'd be dreadful, wouldn't it? Missing out on something.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Food is the best. I love food. Food is just food is too good. All shapes and forms. Something I'm going to do again on Father's Day comes up. Dad and my son to that Korean Japanese barbecue place in Cardiff again.
Yeah.
So good that was. We can put away so much food. God, it's amazing. But so any last thoughts on the whole? Hot dog isn't a sandwich or any of the other kind of annoy you. Ways that people talk about food that it's not that. Will you shut up? Like chips.
We
chips,
could
and crisps.
Yeah, we could go on and on and on about the two main countries that I would say crap on each other.
Yeah.
UK and USA.
Yeah.
Candy. What is candy? Sweet is more like it because it gives you sweetness. It annoys me when they say sweet when they eat a strawberry. It's like, oh my goodness, so sweet. Yeah, call a hard-boiled sweet a sweet, not a candy.
But then, from the definition of sweets, we also call dessert sweet as well.
Yeah, but they are called
a very
desserts.
British thing. Yeah, but there's a very British way of saying sweets instead of dessert. It's a much old-fashioned one that's not around as much. But that's what they used to call dessert as well. Are you having some sweet?
Yeah, true.
So, that kind of goes around. But yeah, I know. It's but then you look at the different types of candy or sweets or that sort of thing. Look at chocolate. Look at the abomination they've got in America compared with here. It's dreadful stuff. Hershey's. Oh, compared with Cadbury's? Nah, it's not even close.
No, absolutely not.
Looking at the moment, obviously Easter, we're currently in. Well, it'll be past Easter by the time this is up. But America and Canada and so on, they don't have Easter eggs like we do.
No,
they don't have the big chocolate eggs.
No, they just have big popcorn buckets instead.
yeah, big baskets filled with like toys and fishing rods and footballs and dolls and stuff. It's like, what? Instead of a big like chocolatey Easter egg, it's ridiculous. It's like, I know it doesn't make any sense having like, chocolate eggs at Easter, really, when you think about it, what Easter's about. And it's just like, it's a bit strange that different cultures do that. But then you look at something like Halloween, and it's only recently the UK is kind of stepping up its game and doing a lot more for Halloween. America.
Oh yeah, American is huge. In the
Yeah.
UK, I would agree. I'd say the past like 5 years, nearly 10, they've slowly started picking things up.
We should probably wind it up there
Yep.
because it's getting to that kind of. If anyone wants to find you on the internet, where can they look for you?
On YouTube, you can find me at The Welsh Assassin. As for Twitch, you can find me at The Welsh Assassin 998.
So you can find me as Nukami on Twitch, or if you pop over to YouTube, you can find me on Wasn't My Fault. So thanks a lot for listening along with us today, and please join us again next week. As always, it'd be 5 o'clock GMT on a Friday. And until then, see you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.